Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I know as we head into holiday breaks, what an unbelievably busy time of the year this is. My name is Breeyn Mack, and I am the Senior Director of Educational Content here at Teaching Strategies. And I love books, I'll admit it. Those of you that have joined me on topics before related to books and literacy know that read-alouds were absolutely my favorite time of day when I was a teacher. And I'm going to get a little cheesy from it and share a picture of me from when I was very little, because I really wanted to ground this kind of final conversation in literacy of just how important it is that we're instilling that love of literacy and love of literature and as a source of enjoyment for the children that we serve. And I have such fond memories, honestly, as early as I can remember. I think I was a little over a year old in that photo. But I have such fond memories of being read aloud to by my mom, my grandmother, my older cousins. And honestly, I just felt really fortunate when I became a teacher that I had the opportunity as an educator to help instill the same love of books with the children that I served. So as we wrap up this series that's really focused on encouraging a love of reading, I thought it would be a good idea to conclude with taking a closer look at the library area. The library area is a powerful tool for nurturing children's love of reading and fostering their understanding of themselves as learners. But unfortunately, the library area oftentimes gets overlooked in ECE classrooms. I've definitely observed programs where they've become stagnant, overwhelming at times, or even worse when the library area has been used as punishment for children who need redirection. So today I want to dig into the power of an inviting library area and share some of the strategies for helping you and the children you serve get the most out of this important interest area. So let's first consider the positive messages that are conveyed to children through a well thought out and intentional library area. For those of you that are familiar with the creative curriculum, you know that we talk a great deal about the positive messages that are so important in creating and nurturing a classroom community where all children can be successful. So I thought it would be a good idea to see how these messages can be achieved and reinforced through the library area. So first, you belong here, right? So for children to become active and engaged learners in the classroom, they need to know and to experience that they're part of the classroom community. The library area is a critical real estate for conveying this message. Intentional, thoughtful book selections ensure that books reflect the diversity of the children in the program, their cultures, their experiences, their interests, their home lives. This sends a powerful message to children and to their families. When children see themselves, their experiences, their realities reflected in the illustrations and text within your library area, children know that the classroom is there for them. Children's literature should, as one early childhood author recently noted in an issue of Young Children, that children's literature should provide mirrors and windows that not only reflect children's lives, but also give children opportunities to learn about the people around the world. Children's literature do that in a way that very little other resources can in a classroom. Additionally, research has told us that when children are read books or told stories that represent them in some way, their stress levels are actually lowered. So to help enhance your collection for this purpose, you can invite families to share titles with you that are favorites at home. And speaking of families, we can also convey the message that they belong here by keeping adult-sized rocking chair or floor cushions in the library area. We're encouraging family members to experience the library with their children and take part in the literacy activities and experiences when they visit the classroom. I also used to keep sticky notes and pencils in the library area for children to use to identify their favorite books. So I'd invite children to write their names on the sticky notes and then place it on the inside cover of their favorite titles. When children physically can see their own names and those of their classmates within the library collection, it sends the message that this is a place for them. We also want children to see the library area simply is just a good place to be. The library area can serve as an anchor of comfort and security for many young children. When it's cozy, quiet, and inviting, uh, with good lighting, soft furnishing, and other home touches such as plants and picture frames, rugs, rocking chairs, children will be drawn to it, and hopefully they'll feel inspired to curl up, explore a book, engage in conversations, and stay a while. One of the first strategies that NACCE gives to parents and families for encouraging children's love of reading is to make reading comforting and cozy. From making story time a cozy routine makes reading an essential and pleasant activity. We can certainly establish that in our classrooms. And for some children who are not exposed to nurturing, warm reading experiences at home, it's that much more critical that we create those moments for them in the classroom. It's also important for children to know that fun and exciting things happen in the library area, right? The library area isn't just for sitting silently and reading a book. The library is a place to write, listen to audiobooks, talk about a character's feelings, or act out dramatic retellings with a friend. So we want to make sure that the materials we include facilitate kind of that wide breadth of discovery. Another strategy to ensure children trust and feel secure in the library area is to consider how the setup and arrangement of the materials further this understanding that the library area is a place you can trust. So for example, you'll want to make sure that books and other materials in the library area are arranged consistently, so children know where to find the books and where to find other items. Children will feel a sense of security when they know where to find things and know what's acceptable to do in that space. We want to ensure that the placement of the materials in the library area are arranged in a way that they can easily be reached, explored independently, and children easily understand how to put the materials away so they are readily accessible for next time. A library area where their materials are displayed neatly and attractively facilitates children in making choices and deciding what books and materials to explore. It's also important to consider that the time you prioritize to spend with children in the library area goes a long way to encourage children's involvement here. So ensure that during choice time, you make time to visit the library area and engage with children and what they're doing. When children have the opportunity to interact with you, as well as other teachers and adults in the program, when they can discuss with you what they're reading, what they're doing, it's these back and forth exchanges that strengthen children's critical thinking and inquiry-based learning. And it shows that what they're doing is important and valued by you. These powerful interactions are crucial to children's learning and to experiencing literature in the context of a caring learning partnership with you. And then when you're also ensuring that the books, the story retelling props, the writing materials, and listening devices are frequently updated to reflect children's strengths, needs, and abilities, this responsiveness to what children need and want during their learning experiences and explorations emphasizes children's trust in the learning environment as a place to discover, to wonder, and to find out more. Books and materials that reflect children's interests and their current curiosities and investigations in the library area also demonstrate to children that you notice and are responsive to their curiosities and interests. By including books related to topics of interest to children, study topics, and anything else that children have shown interest in, you're encouraging children to take an active role in their own learning. It's also important to rotate books periodically. To add fresh reading materials to the space demonstrates to children that the library is a dynamic area and that reading and literacy experiences are ever-changing and frequently help them uncover new ideas. Books are powerful tools to use as children wonder, explore, and discover. Including materials to facilitate children's answering of their questions, such as resource books or encyclopedias to look up more information, these all support active inquiry-based learning. I also used to love having children create their own books for the library area. Not only did it provide the opportunity to reinforce children's understanding of a particular topic of study, it validated the importance of their explorations, discoveries, and their work, while at the same time reinforcing their ability to see themselves as learners, as readers, and writers. It's important for children in preschool to know that there are places in the classroom where they can take a few minutes to be by themselves if they want. The warm, inviting, and comfortable nature of the library area lends itself beautifully as a quiet, calm space for children to go if they need a bit of solitude or a space to recharge and regroup. In the library area, children are able to explore and read books on their own or with a preferred peer or a calming adult presence. Some children may find it appealing to use a variety of technology devices, such as headphones, to listen to a story read aloud, and they can participate in this individually and again find their own space, both physically and mentally. So while the design of the library area and its materials are a natural calm down resource if children need that quiet space, it's important though that we don't misuse this space as a timeout for challenging behaviors. Books and literacy experiences should never be used punitively. If books are tools for punishment, a child will associate books and reading negatively. And I know we all know this, but I've seen some teachers I've worked with over the years that haven't realized the contradicting messages that they're sending when they require a child to sit down and look at a book quietly because the child's demonstrating an overactive or unkind behavior. When we do this, we aren't actually addressing the root of the challenging behavior, so it's likely going to appear again. And worse, we're unintentionally creating a climate where children will not see books and literacy experiences as a source of joy. Banishing a child to the library area completely diminishes the positive messages of the library area and also takes away a child's own agency, which is so crucial for a child's development as a lifelong learner. A key part of children's learning and development, their sense of self as both an active learner and a member of the classroom community, is them having the opportunity to self-direct their own learning and to self-direct and meet their own needs. We need to provide children with a variety of strategies to calm themselves when feeling frustrated or overwhelmed. So the hope is that when a child sees a library area as a nurturing and calming space, as we've described, will then go to it as needed on her own. And then lastly, we want to ensure that, like the rest of the interest areas in the room, the library area nurtures children's growing independence as active learners and doers. When materials are displayed attractively and they're inviting and welcoming for children to explore and use them, when books are placed at children's eye level with the front covers facing out, children are drawn to the area and their curiosity and interests are hopefully piqued. Having writing materials and an accessible word wall is another way to encourage children's active, independent engagement. Reading and writing go hand in hand and support children's natural inclinations to be explorers, documenters, researchers as they become readers and writers. And just as you encourage children to take part in discussions with you and with the class around books during large group story time and other read-alouds, inviting children to choose the books they will look at independently or with peers encourages them to take the lead in directing their own reading interests. So as we consider all of the positive messages in the library area and what they can send to children, I'd like to share a few questions that come from our Coaching to Fidelity resources for preschool that you can use to reflect on the effectiveness of your library area. So to start, we're looking at, is the area attractive, right? Have we included comfortable furniture that helps children relax as they cozy up to look at a book? Is the area furnished with cozy home-like touches, such as plants, rugs, pillows, pictures, stuffed animals, and dolls? And one of the questions that we received from several folks even prior to delivering the webinar, was this idea of not having a ton of space, right? So you can see on the imagery here on the slide, the one on the left is a good bit of real estate and even a structure that's dedicated for the library area. But if you look at the one on the left, that's just a little corner cutout space that they've been able to still create with a handful of pillows and carpet. So depending on what your space is, we don't want that to inhibit us from still adding in a few of these different touches of home that can be included there. Next, we'll look at is attention drawn to special books by displaying them with their covers facing out? Is there high quality literature that's of interest to children? Are story retelling props located near the related books? And are books and recordings stored together? Are books in good condition and rotated periodically to reflect the current investigations of the class as well as children's individual interests? So you want to keep in mind that it's not necessary to gather and display your entire inventory of books at one time. It's actually not even a good idea to do that because stacking the books makes it difficult for children to see the covers. But instead, we want to put out a manageable number of books and then rotate them regularly. That way, children are able to explore the books that are new to them, and then will also be excited when old favorites they've not seen for a while make a return visit to the library. And then as new interests emerge, you can add new and relevant books. So then a few more questions. Is the library area available as a choice time activity on a daily basis? Is the library area located in a quiet place away from heavy traffic? So ideally your library area is not located directly next to really loud interest areas like blocks or dramatic play, as they tend to get rather noisy. I've actually seen the greatest success when the library area is located near the art or discovery areas, which tend to be a little bit milder in the energy level that happens in those spaces. But in addition to just the quietness of the surrounding spaces, putting it near art or discovery area also creates this nice opportunity for cross-reference, right? It encourages children to use literature as inspiration for their art or to use materials in the library as reference for further research when they're learning in the discovery area. Think about if you're introducing more challenging books and materials as children's knowledge, skills, and abilities grow. Do you have photos of children reading? Ideally, the own children in your class. Samples of their writing, dictations of their language, and other documentation of their reading and writing experiences. Again, as we talked about earlier, seeing photos of themselves interacting with literature and documentation of their writing reinforces that message that children belong in this space. Do you and the other teachers interact in this space regularly? And are those interactions meaningful? When children see you seeking out time to engage in literature, it sends a powerful message that literacy is a source of lifelong enjoyment, even for you as an adult. Also, your presence in the library area creates moments for cuddling and physical closeness that some children crave. So think about how children are selecting the library area as a choice time activity. I often ask teachers that I'm coaching to take some time during choice time and just observe and tally the number of children that are selecting this library area during choice time, because oftentimes it's the least selected interest area in a room. If it is in fact the least popular area in your room, spend some time there and really reevaluate. I encourage you to sit on the floor, be the height of a 4-year-old in your space. What do you see? What's exciting to you? What's inviting? What would entice you as a 4-year-old to interact with the materials that are there and enjoy the space? And it's a great opportunity for those of you that use the creative curriculum. We always talk about the foundation volumes are not intended to be read cover to cover. So for instance, if the library area is an area where you don't see children gravitating to during choice time, read that chapter in volume 2 that can give you some more helpful insights on ways to adapt and refine the materials that we're providing in the library area. We're also looking at how children are interacting with others in the library area and making sure that we're offering a wide variety of genres in the library area's book collection, with storybooks, informational text. We have counting books, photography books, poetry books. A big part of literacy is its connection with children's content learning and skill development. And we have to put careful consideration to be able to thoughtfully and intentionally provide a wide variety of books and texts that not only foster children's literacy and language skills, but also focus on children's science and technology learning, their cognitive development, their appreciation for the arts. With so many wonderful and appropriate books out there for young children, it can be hard sometimes to think about how to go about choosing the best ones for your group. So as with all materials, you want to keep the ages and interests of the children in mind when you're looking to select books. In general, we know that younger preschoolers like books with simple plots about familiar experiences with colorful, bold illustrations that are clear and detailed and still offer rich language with rhymes, sometimes nonsense words, and repetition. Our older preschoolers, we know, have a longer attention span, and they begin to enjoy books with more complex plots that they can follow. They appreciate humor and fantasy, and they begin to enjoy stories about faraway places. So obviously, narrative storybooks, predictable books with language patterns such as rhymes and alphabet books are critical to guiding children's language and literacy skills. But we can also support science and technology with the inclusion of field guides, dictionaries, encyclopedias, charts to document discoveries. Mathematic concepts are reinforced with regular access to counting books, date books and calendars, predictable books with language patterns and refrains. Map books, books on various countries, books about historical figures and important moments in history all encourage children's interest in social studies concepts. And then lastly, photography and art books, children's biographies on famous artists, pamphlets from community art experiences, festivals, parades, and concerts that are taking place begin to instill this respect for and interest in the arts. When children have the chance to explore all of the many different types of books and text, to be able to write down what they're learning, to retell stories and share what they've learned from nonfiction or fictional texts, not only are they developing these literacy skills, but they're also developing their inquiry-based cognitive skills and understanding. So lastly, while today's focus was on the library area, we'd be remiss to not address the importance of allowing yourself and the children to have the library area spill over into other areas of the room as well. A key support to children's learning and content areas and their skill development through literacy experiences and books is having literacy be a strong presence in all areas of the classroom, right? So while the library area is the hub of literacy learning, and it's often a place where the majority of your literacy materials are stored, it's a great idea to include books and other literacy materials in all of the interest areas in your room in meaningful ways. This entices children to explore those science, technology, math, and art concepts through literature. So for example, to engage children in interest with literacy, you might have cookbooks and menus in the dramatic play area as children play at being cooking contestants on a television show, or building maps and books on famous architecture buildings in the block area as children build their own cities and monuments. Playbills and concert series promotional materials placed in the music and movement area can further encourage children's music making and dancing. We also don't want to forget to take clipboards and nature photography, which will support observing, watching, and documenting nature and enjoying literacy in the outdoors. We can include art books that focus on painting and sculptures, and storybooks on famous singers and dancers in the art area, which provide an incredible opportunity for children to take the first step in seeing, experiencing, and feeling art, and being able to create their own works in tandem with this understanding. Meaningful, engaging, and appealing literacy experiences further children's understanding of the purposes for literacy and their recognition of literacy as a source of enjoyment. When we have literacy materials throughout the classroom in all the different interest areas, including the outdoors, it ensures that children have numerous opportunities and options for exploring reading, writing, and storytelling in their own ways, with their own preferred styles of learning and working, and their own pace and their own personal preferences. One of the questions we got before the webinar was folks asking about, when certain children just never gravitate towards the library area, right? So I think a really strong strategy is incorporating rich children's literature, fiction, nonfiction, and opportunities for children to engage with print in the interest areas that they're already actively engaged in. So a child that really loves working in the block area, having some books there that the child can interact with as inspiration or guidance for his construction, then can start to see the power and the impact and the exciting experiences that can happen when he engages with that. So I think starting to model some of the enjoyment of literature in other areas of the room would start to build some momentum as children look to hopefully then seek that out themselves in the library area. So all of these positive messages in the library area, all of the exciting, engaging literacy activities and experiences are integral components to laying the groundwork for children to know and enjoy reading and to experience literacy as a source of enjoyment and as a powerful tool in their learning. So that was really the goal of this series as we first looked at the importance of incorporating informational and nonfiction texts throughout our classroom environment, and then dug a little bit deeper into the repeated read aloud. All of those strategies that we engage as we introduce that literature to children are then reinforced when we create an environment where children can seek out literature independently or with their peers, and find the space in the classroom where they themselves can take some ownership for their further learning with literature. So I'll pause there a moment to see what other questions folks have about the library area. Someone just quickly asked a question about what would a library look like outside. One of the things I've seen is just those little library houses that they make. My aunt actually has one in her neighborhood that she put up in front of her house in her neighborhood, and we have one here at the office at Teaching Strategies. There's plans for them online that you can download and build yourself, or you can purchase the actual library. But my cousins actually built theirs from scratch. It becomes this kind of watertight little house. It looks like a really large birdhouse in a way, but it's watertight, and you can actually keep books right in there, which is lovely. But then also thinking about the kinds of materials you would want to take outside and putting them in those plastic protectors, if we're thinking about field guides and things like that. I've also seen programs just use mailboxes and leaving different literature inside those along the playground. Someone asked a question about what are your thoughts about the library area being next to the block center. So I addressed that a little bit earlier. Sometimes the constraints of our program only allow us to be so flexible. So I would say, if possible, I've seen most success when the library area is not located next to blocks or dramatic play. I think blocks and dramatic play both can have a very high energy feel to that space in the room, and can tend to get a little noisier as children engage in that socio-dramatic play. So I think having the library area not directly located next to blocks or dramatic play helps to further the declaration that this is a quiet, calm place for children to be. So next to discovery or art or technology, oftentimes lends itself to be a better experience to create this quiet space for children to recharge when needed. But sometimes that's just not how the layout of your program works. And if the library area needs to be next to the block area, then what a great opportunity for us to reinforce big rule, little rule in our program. So if we know we have children that are looking to do some independent reading or have some great book discussion with a peer, and the children in the block area are getting really, really noisy, maybe it's solving that social problem together as a class and saying, oh, we need to be kind to everyone in the classroom. I noticed that Hi and Megan are trying to read the story of Corduroy. What do you think we could do in the block area to help them have a little bit more quiet so that they could hear each other, and see what social problems, social solutions they come up with? Maybe in the block area, we're whispering a little bit, or we're putting the blocks down a little bit more gently, or we're giving the library area heads up and we're getting ready to do something really noisy so that they can take a break from their conversation. I would say kind of turn it back on the classroom community to be a part of that discussion. Let's see. Oh, there's lots of great questions. What kind of seating materials will be good? Again, I think there's a lot of flexibility here. I've seen some really great things that don't have to be expensive. I actually did it when I was a second grade teacher. I didn't have the space to do it in my preschool classroom, but I found an old canoe that I halved out. My grandfather cut it in half for me, and I filled that with pillows and kind of stuck it in this little corner spot I had in my classroom and just filled it with a ton of pillows. This big, squashy, soft place to sit. And that was, someone was just giving that away at a flea market. I've seen folks use a mattress, like a small toddler-sized mattress, on that frame, and have the sides taken down. So there's the back, almost like a little day bed, and filling that with pillows. I've seen just pillows that families could donate for you, and it's nice to have those slip covers on them that can quickly just be washed. I've seen child-sized couches. I've seen bean bags, or even just carpet squares, like something that identifies that stuffed animals that can make that a little bit more comfortable. I would say you don't need to invest handsomely in all of this new furniture to make this space happen. I would think about what touches of home do you already have, or putting a call out to your classroom community and the families that you're welcoming into your program, especially if you're first getting started, some requests of things that maybe they could gift to the library area, or be able to even rotate if you've got some suggestions there. But I would say that the key here, I think, is the softness of it. And then knowing some children may prefer to have a more structured chair that's like at a table, if that's how they're most comfortable learning. And of course, that can come over from one of the other areas. But if we're trying to emulate this idea of coziness and comfort, then I think we want to have some of those soft furnishings that encourage that. There's also a question about, would you think about having your main meeting or morning meeting in your library area? I think that's a wonderful opportunity. I think anytime we can, if your library space is large enough that you can come together as a classroom community and do some shared discovery and discussion, again, we want to reiterate this idea that the library area isn't just a place where you have to quietly sit by yourself and look at a book. The library is a place to talk about important things, to talk about characters' feelings, to build off of vocabulary, to do dramatic story retellings and play with felt story props, which someone else asked if that's appropriate. It's absolutely appropriate for those things to be placed in the library area. So I think if your then real estate of your space can fit the full classroom community to engage in some of your interactions there, that once again reinforces the idea that this is another one of the hearts of the classroom where important and exciting things happen. I would just caution that we do want the library area, however possible, to feel intimate and cozy. So I would say I would try and avoid have it being kind of your main large group space, because oftentimes that can feel kind of really big and open. So for a child that is looking for something that's a little bit more contained, to use during choice time and use as a strategy other times of day when they kind of need to remove themselves from the group and recharge independently, we would just want to make sure that there's still like a cozy corner spot if that's where you choose to have that. There's a question here. Oh, how do you encourage staff to buy into beefing up the library area? So I'm guessing you mean administrators or kind of leadership in the team. I would say, sharing the importance of what that is, inviting the folks who make those purchasing decisions into your classroom to see the benefit and the excitement children have when they get to engage with new and exciting pieces of literature. I think that can go a long way. But there's also a lot of ways that you can build out your library at little cost or low cost. One is, I would say, absolutely reach out to your families and see if they have books from older siblings or cousins, or almost do like a little mini book drive from the extended family of titles that could be donated to the classroom. Reaching out to your local library, public library, there's often books that kind of get removed from circulation. I know when I taught at a private preschool, they would have a big book sale once a year where books were considerably reduced, a couple of dollars, even a title, but they would usually like gift me 50 titles before they even started that sale. It's just part of their donation process. So reaching out to those public libraries and getting some of those taken out or donated to your program. I also switched in my school. I don't know if this would work for every community, but I know as a teacher, I got frustrated with birthday celebrations in my class. It became all about the sweet treat and the little bag of trinkets that I feel like in a weird way almost became a competition of what was in them. And it just felt very distracting and didn't go along with the ways that we talked about celebration within the four walls of our classroom. So my last couple of years of teaching, we shifted birthday celebrations to a book being donated to the classroom. So the child would pick a title from home that they already had that was a favorite, or if there was a financial obstacle there to going to purchase one, they could just share one from home. Or some families went out and purchased a new book that the child selected, and they would bring the book in and all the children would write and sign it. And I had a special like happy birthday sticker that went in the front, and the child got to write their name and the date on it. And like I said, all the children signed it and said happy birthday. And then that child would be part of that read aloud experience with a family member to share that new title with the classroom. And then it was a great thing to just continue to build out the classroom library. And again, sending that message that you belong here when children get to have a book that they selected with that special birthday sticker on it. And then I also used a lot of my book points that I got from Scholastic and other kind of book purchasing groups. Those free points I got as a teacher, I used those for then a birthday book for the child to pick from that collection to take a book home with them. So it was kind of this trade-off of a new book for the classroom and then a book that the child was getting to take home that, again, all the children signed. So it was a nice reminder of literacy as a source of enjoyment in the classroom. Oh, so here's a question about when adding writing materials to the library area, what's the suggestion for keeping all of the books safe? Here's where I would go back again to the big rule, little rule, right? So we need to, in my classroom, it was be kind, be safe, take care of the things in your classroom. And if you follow that big rule, little rule strategy, you likely have some assembly similar to those. But be kind, be safe, take care of the things in our classroom. Those were our big rules, and I would reinforce them with little rules. So if we need to take care of the things in our classroom, we can't write in the books, right? Unless it was the special birthday celebration that I described. But we needed to take care of the things in our classroom. We need to be careful when turning the pages. We need to take care of the things in the classroom. We don't want to stand on our books that could break the spine. We need to be careful with the things in our class. We need to take care of the things in our classroom so the writing materials can only go on a sticky note that we would put in there. So it's still just reinforcing that these books are a really important material and piece of the classroom community, and they're something that are valued and need to be respected and taken care of. So I think as you introduce the library at the beginning of the year, setting really clear expectations of, you can see the titles, you can reach the titles. This is a space for you to interact with this however you would like. Here's also writing materials. Here's the appropriate ways to use these in the library area. And then spending a little bit of extra time there in the beginning of introducing those materials. So you're making sure that you're setting consistent and realistic expectations for what that looks like. Yeah, someone here is reinforcing this idea that she's heard some of her colleagues refer to the library area as the quiet area, and that we have to be careful there. And I agree. Where the library area, we need to be kind to the others in the library area, knowing that they're reading. We want to use a softer voice, knowing that Hi is next to me reading a book by himself. I need to use a quieter voice next to him, but it's not a silent area, right? I can still be having a conversation with a teacher or with a peer about what I'm reading, and I can be doing a felt story or playing with puppets. So absolutely, I agree that we want to reinforce this message that there absolutely can be talking in this space. It just needs to be respectful talking, and it may be a little bit quieter than when we're pretending to be the crossing guard in the dramatic play area, or when we're pretending to be a rock star in the music and movement area. Those voices might be a little bit louder than what our library voice sounds like. There's a great question and suggestion here about having the library area as a parent and child connection in the entrance of the building. What a lovely idea. So I think having an additional library area just for the whole building and classroom and school community to engage with, I think is a wonderful thought and a lovely way to kind of ease that transition into school for the day. I would just say make sure that you also then still have a library area in your classroom so that children can independently still choose that space during choice time. One of the programs I work with here in DC, the teacher there, Miss Levine, had a full twin-size mattress in her library area, kind of pushed up in the corner. So it was anchored by a wall on two of the sides, a long side and a short side, filled with a ton of pillows. And every day I was there, I saw parents at drop-off and pick up, come a little early or stay a little late, and just cuddle up on there and read with children. And inevitably always their child was the first one to kind of sit with them and pick out a favorite book or something that had been read the day before. But then inevitably other children always kind of came over to hear the story. And it was a great way for families to build some relationships with the other children in the classroom. So there's some questions here around suggestions for infants and toddlers. So the focus of, honestly, this whole series was really focused more on preschool and kindergarten environments, but a lot of this translates to the infant toddler space as well. We definitely in an infant toddler classroom want to have a dedicated library area. A lot of those same positive messages we want to be communicating, the importance of diversity in the illustrations that we're sharing, this idea of cozy, affectionate, cuddling time, to see reading as something that is a social emotional experience just as much as it's a literacy experience. For infants and toddlers, that's so unbelievably critical. It's why I actually like the Highlights Hello resource that we have included in our curriculum for infants, toddlers, and twos. If you're not familiar with it, we have a great partnership with Highlights, but they created a new publication a couple of years ago now called Highlights Hello, that's focused for the infant toddler 2 audience, and they're not board books. So each issue has like 5 unique songs, poems, stories, even like a little find it puzzle, but it's this material that's still sanitizable and easy to care on for children to chew and manipulate and things, but it's not this heavy board book. So you can really just hold it and flip the pages with one hand. So I would say when you're thinking about your library experiences for infants, toddlers, and twos, really just thinking about what are the things you can do to create a really warm and inviting opportunity and make literature and books really accessible for children, even at the youngest of ages. A colleague and I were talking that, beginning a love for books is finding out how good they taste when you're an infant, and just starting to have the opportunity to chew on and lick a book is a great way to get started. So we'll look at the next year. Like I said, this series was more of a focus on preschool and kindergarten, but we absolutely will kind of shift gears and dig a little deeper into infants, toddlers, and twos next year. And we have a couple folks who are saying, we use Highlights Hello, they're wonderful, they're great. Yeah, so then here's another follow-up question for infants, toddlers, and twos. Would you suggest having books throughout the classroom like you would in a preschool classroom? And I would say absolutely. We want to set an example for children that literature is something that's accessible and helpful and enjoyable. So if that's the big message that we want to land, then having those books located throughout the room as children show interest and are able to engage with them, I think all the better. Great, so I'll pause here to see if there's any more. I'm just going to call out this one resource. I can't speak for this for myself, but someone just shared that Bernie's Book Bank is a good resource for programs. So you might want to check into that. It looks like they offer a collection of books for programs that qualify for that. So Bernie's Book Bank. So thanks for Bernice for sharing that with us. Oh, so here's one kind of final question, unless any others pop up, but someone was saying that they love this idea of making the library area comfy and cozy, but they have some licensing issues regarding pillows and furnitures and plants and things like that. So of course, as a caveat, at Teaching Strategies, we always say, you need to follow your program's requirements and regulations first. So in that case, and you're saying that you don't want it to feel sterile and boring, I would turn it back on the children and have them engage. We have this one, I'm going to go back in my slides. Hopefully I can do that. Can I click back? Yes. There we go. I'm going to go all the way back to this one because I just love this from a classroom that was shared with me from one of our trainers in the field. Where'd it go? Of this kind of like undersea space that they had. So yeah, they've got some of these pillows and beanbag things here, but even just creating some kind of mural that children could work on together. Maybe a couple weeks into starting the school year, think about what some of your favorite titles are that you've shared so far as a classroom community. For instance, When Really Worried is a story we read at the beginning of the year in preschool. Maybe we create some of those characters on the wall and work together to build a classroom mural there, or bring some of those characters to life in kind of cutouts or felt pieces. So if you're not able to have those soft furnishings, just thinking of how do you still convey this message that this is a space that was designed for you. So I would say, see what ideas the children have and come up with. All right, and then someone else also listed another great resource called First Book. So Megan, one of my colleagues that supports in our social media, her and I can connect afterwards and maybe look and see what some of these suggestions are and share them out that folks have shared with us. And definitely send us some pictures of your library area if you want to. These are some great ones from New Jersey and DC that we recently were, but it's always great on social media to see some other great things that folks are doing in their library area. So with that, I'll leave the question box open for a little bit longer if folks have any other questions that they wanted to add in there that we can look to address in a further webinar or to follow up with you directly. But I just wanted to thank you so much for your time. As I know I said earlier, this week right before holiday breaks can be very chaotic and hectic, and I appreciate you taking the time to join us. So thank you so much, and we'll speak to you again at the first of the year.